I think I met Lou first at the Raji's. I think it was R-A-J-I. It had been an Indian restaurant or something at one point, and there was a bar upstairs, but the music room was this small room downstairs. But Lou would play there and the Palomino, and we just became friends, and she would kindly have me come up on stage and sing harmonies. And then our friend, the engineer, and he had played bass with me, Dusty Wakeman, was producing those first records on her with Gerth Morlix. And so they started using me on harmonies on the records, and seeing her live. And also the man that was my manager at the time was named John Chiambotti, and he played bass with Lucinda. And Donald Lindley, the drummer, would also play with me when they weren't gigging. And she wasn't really on the road a lot at that time. Then, and I'm not sure of the exact amount of years, but there was, 5, 6, or 7 years between albums, I think. And then I got to go in and sing on the Car Wheels album. And then when that came out, she very kindly let me open the show solo and then sing harmony with her in the band. The music was finished, and I came in and overdubbed the harmonies. And luckily, through working with Pete Anderson on singing on the Dwight records, and Carlene Carter had me come in and sing some harmonies. And when I had lived in New York, and then when I was on the road doing these shows, when I was trying to get a record deal, I would go into the studio. I'd fly into New York, and I'd get free studio time. A friend of mine named Steve Satterwhite had a studio on the Lower East Side. And so I kind of started doing all of these demos, and that's how I kind of cut my teeth in the studio and learning how to sing. And then I think it was ear training from childhood, just listening to a lot of music. My folks played a lot of music, and then when the Beatles came out and all that stuff, things harmonically started making sense, and I just really enjoy. And even hearing Ralph Stanley sing harmony, even though it was a different style, but with bluegrass stuff. So yeah, those sessions I remember for Car Wheels in LA. And
had you heard any of those songs before you sang?
Yes, I had sung on a different version of Car Wheels she had done several years earlier, and I went into a studio in Austin and overdubbed some stuff. But then she came up with several other songs and redid some things she had recorded. But that record, I remember at that time when that record came out and I was on the road with her, I'd recorded a country record with Tim Coates. And actually, around that time, I had a country deal on RCA. But as what happened with me with my country major label career, I never had any hits on my own as a performer, but other people started recording the songs. And so there was this great period of time where George Strait, Patty Loveless, Gary Allen, Kathy Mattea, folks were having these hits, and I could make a good living as a songwriter, but I was also, though, investing that money into my own recording career and touring career. But I was in a studio several years later. This record now, when I'm thinking about it, I'd gone in with the North Mississippi All-Stars, and we did one of the Robert Hunter lyric records I did at their dad's, Jim Dickens, Zebra Ranch. And that became this record called Black Roses, and Spooner Oldham and David Hood are on that record. Then did a record at Royal Studios in Memphis that Luther Dickinson suggested I work there with Boo Mitchell. So we went in and did kind of a soul record. And then I've got this other follow-up record that I still haven't finished. And a few years back, we were over at Sputnik Sound, the studio here, and I was talking to Luther and the engineer. I said, yeah, boy, when that Car Wheels record came out, I'd recorded a whole album of stuff, but hearing that record, it's like the bar was just set so high. I said, So I scrapped that record and started another one. And right around that time, Vince, that owns that studio, walked in. He said, comparison is the killer of joy. And so, and that is great advice. And that kind of gets back, this kind of circles back around to what I was first talking about comparing yourself to other artists. And Lucinda is a great example. I mean, Lucinda is so amazing on so many different levels that if you're a writer or singer or whatever, when you hear her music, you can't help but say, I might as well just hang this up. What's the point? You know.
Well, does she do that to herself also?
You know, she, back in those early days, I was around her. I wanted to co-write with her, and we talked about it. And we sat down once, and she mentioned some titles, and I came up with these melodies and things, and they weren't, to me, I thought, yeah, this is, but it wasn't right. And then, and there was a lyric, she was playing something, and I didn't really feel like I added to what she was doing. And I just said, listen, I'm sitting here listening to this, and it's great, and you don't need me, you know. So the thing is that seeing her writing process and knowing how she was in the studio and live, she's always had, and in those early days, I really saw this. I mean, she knew what she wanted to hear and how it should sound. And whatever she was a real perfectionist, and that I really admire that, you know, because so many times we go, okay, yeah, listen, we got to move on here. We got to just, we're running overtime. We got to go, but it needs to be right. And she won't settle for anything less. And I will say that, gosh, these last many years, she has really entered, I think, this such a great level of fulfillment and a joyfulness and contentment, and still keeps her creative edge. And I'm so happy about that. And I mean, she's so prolific. Still great stuff. I mean, she was and probably still is totally unique as somebody that has some different, stylistically different with folk, blues, country, and rock, and meld this and be so good at all of those and have it rolled into one thing.